Is a photo that has captivated me from the instant I first saw it many years ago. A photo taken in Toronto in the summer of 1909. The members of First Unitarian are gathered outside a grand old house wearing their Sunday finest. Men in dark suits and top hats, women in long white dresses and very big and highly decorated hats to boot. Children in knickers and short dresses sitting at their feet and atop the roof of the vast porch. There is patriotic bunting strung up along the lines of the house. Red ensign flags seem to be fluttering in the breeze of this summer day. It might have been a picnic for Dominion Day. These people are so clearly of another place and time. And yet they and we are counted as part of this same congregation that has endured now for nearly 175 years. While we have photos of almost all of the ministers who've served this congregation dating to its founding in 1845, and we have images of the many different congregations we've called home over our long history, it is rare to find an old photo of the people of the congregation itself. This image is one of the earliest in our archives. And so I cherish it as I stare into their faces, knowing that each of them is now long gone, knowing that they are our spiritual ancestors, knowing that we share a living tradition with them that stretches across time, knowing that we are called in some way to keep continuity with them, to somehow keep faith with them. I look into their faces and I wonder just what that means. We are decidedly different in so many ways. They professed a liberal version of Christianity and followed a form of worship that was a slimmed down version of Anglican morning prayer, minus references to the Trinity. Looking into the faces, I wonder if they had any inkling of the war that would soon come, or the flu pandemic that would upend their lives a decade later. I wonder who among them knew the founders of this congregation living in their latter years, who remembered worshiping in the clapboard meeting house on Lower George Street before they moved into their Gothic building on Jarvis Street in 1854. I wonder who in that photo could recall the fire that was intentionally set in the basement of that church on Christmas Eve in 1865, a seeming indication of anti-Unitarian sentiment in a city that was dominated at the time by Anglicans and Methodists. And I look into the faces in this photograph and I wonder who of them would live on to see the first woman president of this congregation in the 1940s, who would stay on through the hard years when the former Gothic glory of the Jarvis Street Church had faded quite a bit, when the roof was leaking yet again, when the church was reeling from one financial crisis after another, and when the neighborhood around the building had become the red light district, to the point that during World War II, soldiers had to get special permission to attend services, as it was otherwise unseemly to be caught in this part of the city. I wonder who among them would adapt to and even enthusiastically embrace the sweeping theological changes in Unitarianism in the early and middle decades of the 20th century, as the church, like so many Unitarian churches, expanded beyond its liberal Christian identity to adopt the views of mid-century Big H humanism with its deep-seated optimism in human progress. I wonder if any of them were serving on the board decades later in the 1960s when they sent Reverend John Morgan, the minister at the time, to join the March for Racial Justice in Selma, or were on the board at the same time when they refused John's request to allow a group of homosexual men to gather in our building. I wonder what they thought when John just decided instead to host the gay men's group in the parlor of the manse behind the church. And were they still around to see Reverend Duke Gray marry 2 women in 1974? I do wonder what they thought of that. And I wonder who among us might remember some of these people. There are longtime members of our present-day congregation, Elizabeth Mitchnick and Shirley Grant, who were part of the congregation when we were still on Jarvis Street, and who, along with so many people who joined in the 50s and 60s, surely crossed paths with the people in this photo. Clarence Cruikshank, who died in 1995, had been a member of this congregation for 93 years. Some of you I know remember him, and others of us recall his name because we lifted up each Easter in gratitude for the fresh flowers his bequest continues to provide for our sanctuary. I'm not sure if he is one of the little boys in the photo, but he easily could have been. In the words Angela read during the meditation, we share a history with these lives. We belong to the same motion. They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be. Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared. They are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We are indeed a community of memory and hope, and we exist in this present moment as an ever-changing, ever-evolving part of what has been, is, and shall be First Unitarian. At any given point, we are a bridge between what we have been and what we will become, which means, of course, time working as it does, that someday we will all be counted among the ancestors. How, I wonder, will the future regard the decisions we have made in this era? In the same way that we stare into the faces in the photo and wonder about the attitudes and prejudices they held, how they understood the status of women or the meaning of gender or the consequences of colonization. 100 years hence, faces from the future will look back to this time too and wonder why we, knowing all that we already know, were still so slow to confront climate change, to make racial justice a reality, to reach genuine reconciliation with indigenous peoples, and to lift up and celebrate the stunning and wondrous diversity of the human family as the marvelous gift that it is. In the way that those faces from 1909 would likely find much about us today bewildering, we can hardly imagine what 100 years or more will mean for this religious community, let alone the world. We do, I believe, though, have a sacred obligation to become, in the here and now, good ancestors. This means many things. It means trying to live our lives with integrity, trying to live out our values in a way that makes a difference. It means grappling with what justice demands of us in our time and taking action to make justice real. It means beholding the sacredness at the heart of life in ourselves and in our neighbors, in people half the world away, and in every living thing. It means moving through the world with compassion and with kindness, in search of understanding and invitations to grow. This requires what some have artfully called epistemological humility, an ability to appreciate that we don't and that we can't know everything. To begin from a place of humble curiosity and openness to the fact that the world still has things to teach us and that the truth and meaning of life are still unfolding. To be good ancestors will also mean that we take ourselves and our faith more seriously. We are living in incredibly tumultuous times. We need one another and the grounding we find together arguably now more than ever. This may mean digging deeper than we have been accustomed to, calling ourselves to lead examined lives, relying on spiritual practices that help us to be mindful, crafting a religion for ourselves that strengthens and sustains us. In a rather irksome passage in her novel Fly Away Home, the writer Marge Piercy speaks of a mother in the story who says of her daughters, "The girls had been raised Unitarian, which seemed a nice, sensible compromise between having no religion at all and having to lie about what we believed. Enough religion to be respectable, but not enough to get in the way. Friends, our religion is meant to get in our way, to challenge and to change us, to hold before us our highest ideals, and help us move with faith towards life more abundant for all. This is not the easy path. Contrary to what Piercy says, Unitarianism is arguably the hardest religion that you will ever love. The principles that we have set before ourselves, while simply expressed in words, are tremendously difficult to live out in practice. From respecting the inherent worth and dignity of every person to honoring the great web of life, there is plenty to keep us busy for all of our days on this good green earth. As lofty and demanding as our principles may be, though, why would we ever settle for anything less? We need a faith that calls us to the best of our humanity, while also recognizing that we won't and can't always live up to these principles. It is the effort that matters, the faith in action, the principles put into practice day in and day out. In other words, it is the letting our religion regularly and solidly get in our way. As Susan Frederick Gray, my colleague, friend, and president of the UUA has put it, this is no time for a casual faith. How right she is. As we move into our 175th year, as we celebrate our Dodransbicentennial, as it is called, may we take up the call anew to live fully into our faith and to build up together an enduring community of memory and hope that serves life and sustains us all. May we take up the call to the sacred work that is ours to do in this time, that in generations to come, the great family of all souls that is this congregation may look back and find that we were faithful. May it be so.